Hi, my name is Renee, and I am a peer educator at the University Counseling Center, and I am 20 years old and I'm a senior.
Hi everyone, my name's Adia. I am 19 years old and I'm a sophomore. I'm also a peer educator intern at the University Counseling Center. So today we're just going to be having a conversation surrounding the topic of body acceptance and topics surrounding body image, like body positivity, body image, and get into a little bit of disordered eating and eating disorders.
This topic is really important to me because I have dealt with experiences of body shaming throughout my whole entire life. And it is so normalized in our society to bully those that don't fit a certain beauty standard. And bullying is also normalized too among people that aren't fit, that don't suit a certain image. And there's just a lot of jokes and a lot of bullying going on very that makes it an important topic to talk about.
Yeah, totally. I see that too with just the normalization of bullying and harmful conversations surrounding these topics. And I am really passionate about this topic as well, just from personal experiences and my friends' experiences with everything from body image to body image related issues to disordered eating and eating disorders. And I also just have seen that the way culture approaches this topic is very harmful. It doesn't put the well-being of people at the center of these conversations. And that is something that just makes me so upset. And we've also kind of realized when Ray and I are talking, we talk about this body shaming culture that we're all a part of, where all we're hearing is this message that you're not enough. And that's what we're constantly having to hear and walk through, whether that's being told to us overtly or whether that's being subtly told to us through just the messages we're receiving from every direction. And we talked a little bit about even social media and the way that we're told through that we're not enough, and the way that we're told through that you need to look a certain way or fit into the beauty standard. And even the beauty standard, we can't even keep up because the beauty standard is constantly changing. So it's just so harmful. And we've seen social media to be a highlight reel. It couldn't be more unrealistic, and truly everything about it is not real. And the way that's affected our body images is so debilitating.
Yeah, social media is definitely the main channel and direction that a lot of people take when it comes to body shaming and even just having difficulty with body acceptance, because social media is just so prominent in our society that it sets all of the expectations, all the beauty standards. And that's the reason why you see a lot of people comparing themselves to others, especially against influencers and models. And like you said already, that beauty standards is always changing and we can never keep up. And that's why comparison will never end at all.
Yeah, absolutely. And with comparison, we compare ourselves to people who have had cosmetic surgery done. We compare ourselves to people who are utilizing Facetune and Photoshop. We're comparing ourselves to people who essentially aren't even real. And that is a problem in itself. And even with the pressures of, oh, everyone in the summer is posting bikini pictures, I need to also, or like hearing the comments and public opinions, if you look on any celebrity's post or anyone's, honestly, you will hear a lot of opinions. And that's not inherently bad, but when it starts asking those questions in the comments, like, oh, did you gain weight, or did your body change, or wow, so proud of her, she looks, she thought she would look awful after the baby and she looks great, she's proven all of us wrong. Like, what does that even mean? What kind of message is that conveying? It's honestly backhanded. And these types of comments and public opinions, that really starts to weigh into us. That really starts to have us internalize these things. And we're starting to ask ourselves, like, what is wrong with me? Like, why am I feeling this way? Why are people making comments about my body that's not solicited?
And then also speaking about celebrities and influencers in general, though that they do fit the beauty standard expectations, because they know that a lot of companies hire them to promote their products. And a lot of those products right now, well, for a couple years actually, detox water has made a very big impact on advertisement and even in just social media in general. And detox water just promotes the idea that you will lose weight if you buy this product all the time. And then even I've seen a lot of products that specifically teas where there's like a slimming weight loss green tea that you drink every single day. And I think I did some research on it back in the day, and it actually damages your like internal system if you drink that every single day. And I think in the instructions you're only supposed to drink it once a week, but I actually know people that drink it every single night, and it's just crazy how desperate, not desperate, but how people will do whatever they can to lose weight so they can fit the standard.
Totally. And it is almost in a sense out of desperation for sure, because when you're being told that you're not enough and then you get this celebrity saying, oh, you're not enough, but here's a product that will make you enough, and it's a weight loss tea, which is so harmful for your body and your like internal systems, but it's also so harmful for us to be listening to people who have no medical credentials. Like, this isn't my physician, my primary care physician telling me to take a tea. This is a very different story. This is an influencer with zero medical backing telling me about this product that's supposedly going to cure me of not being enough and going to help me lose this weight that who thought, like, maybe I don't even have to lose it. You know what I'm saying? Like, who said I have to even lose it in the first place? It's just so many assumptions. And I think it's really all based on the idea of you are not enough as you are, and you need to make this grand change in your life. And somehow that change is dictated by people like influencers, which again, who gave them the credentials to do that? But I also just see like Photoshop or Facetune or whatever the new thing is these days. I feel like it's always changing, but even the normalization of these to heavily or minimally edit photos just causes a lot of confusion for people, especially when I think of younger individuals on social media. When they are looking at these influencers, and I'm not trying to demonize influencers, they are people too, and they struggle as well. And I think they're just a great example of like the beauty standard and what we're looking at when we're talking about this. But even when I'm thinking of younger people looking at these Facetune pictures, and while they're still trying to figure out their identity and how they feel about themselves, they are looking at pictures that aren't even real people. That is such a problem in itself, I feel like.
And then speaking of the younger generation, yeah, since they are still developing, they're prone to internalize what's being thrown at them. And this is why language is also another important channel and aspect of body, like of trying to get to body acceptance and trying to ignore body shaming. I know that language is, no matter like what people think, language is really powerful, and you can be mentally strong all you can, but language hurts. Words hurt. It really does, especially if you're a little kid and you're trying to find support from people that you should trust and people that you love. I know that with me growing up, um, I've always been I've always been shamed for how I looked, and people have always told me, "Oh, you gained a little bit. You gain a little bit weight. Maybe you'll look better if you lose weight." And then also, I've had people tell me, "Oh, you can't. I'm not going to give you this until you lose weight." It's manipulation, basically. It's trying to get me to do something in order to get what I want. And I was just a child. And now that I'm an adult, I'm still internalizing those messages that were thrown at me, and I'm still
Totally.
trying to overcome it. And it's hard. We really need to change how we say things for sure.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you so much for sharing that and for being vulnerable. I think that's something that a lot of people really walk through. But that doesn't take away from the pain of it all. Um, I remember from an early age when we were exposed to those rating scales. That's what I always come back to when I'm talking about this topic is those rating scales where it's like, comment on my Instagram and I'll give you a rate in TBH, but then the rate is taken in two parts. You have the rate for your body, like what? And then the rate for your personality. And then it's out of 10. And we're told that we are just a number on a scale. We're just a number. And our bodies number can be dictated by the people around us. How does that even make sense? I remember people would talk and be like, oh yeah, she's an 8, she's a 2, she's a 3, he's a 5. What? What does that mean? What does that even mean? There's no such thing. But also we've internalized that, and we also externalize that. A lot of people have put that on others, and that in itself is very traumatizing in many cases. And I even think about TikTok, which is a whole other conversation. I have to say, it's a whole other issue. But the videos you see on TikTok with people talking about their bodies, or like, I haven't eaten today, and they vlog the what I eat in a day, and it's like one blueberry and spinach, and everyone's like, you're so healthy. That's promoting something that's so harmful. You're romanticizing this idea of even disordered eating, which I know we'll talk about in a little bit, but it's romanticizing these harmful practices, and no one is being called out. I feel like we're just having so much of this language, or someone's making a video on TikTok and they're like, look at this celebrity, her body image, her body changed a little bit, and we should all scrutinize it. And then everyone's starting to analyze. Like, you scroll in the comments, everyone's analyzing the body parts of these people. Like, how is that? How have we gotten to a place in society where that is okay? How is it okay and normal for me to open up TikTok and see this and not even be, of course I'm fazed, but I'm not surprised. I'm not shocked.
Yeah, TikTok is it's really interesting. You can definitely see the double standards on that app. I've seen a lot of double standards, especially with what you mentioned about eating on video on social media. A lot of people romanticize the idea of, oh, I only ate this amount, which is what you've said. But at the same time, if you look at the other line, for people that don't fit the beauty standards, if they post a video of them eating, especially on TikTok, you will see a lot of hate comments. And it doesn't matter what they eat. Like, it doesn't matter at all. That person could be eating only, let's say, like a blueberry, like you mentioned, but then the comments would be like, oh, you're just eating less so we don't bully you, or something like that. But then if they eat a huge meal, that's when the comments will come in saying, of course you would eat that. Of course, because you're big, of course you would eat that. It's just, there's no way to satisfy the population, and it's awful.
Yeah, there's no way. You cannot win in this type of culture. If we're participating in this culture that is so divisive and where you can never be right, you are never going to win. You're never going to be able to feel comfortable, because there's always going to be backlash for any decision you make, or any post you put out, or any video of you dancing. Someone is going to say something. And I just wonder, like, how can we change that culture? Obviously, that's another thing that we'll go into, but how can we change that culture on college campuses? I see this too. We are on a college campus. We are exposed to people on a daily basis talking about what they eat, what they don't eat. And that can be really activating and triggering many times. If you hear people who, because in the realm of disordered eating and eating disorders, comes that competitive nature, that competitive streak where people are competing. That's a huge part of eating disorders, where studies show that people who are engaging in disordered eating, like practices or whatever that may be, they are practicing something that's like, it's very competitive. And I don't know how often you've heard this, and you can share totally your personal experiences as well, but I hear all the time, oh, I haven't eaten today. It's like 8 p.m. So it's like, I haven't eaten all day. Maybe I'll lose a pound. What? And I'm not saying they are the problem. I'm not saying they are the problem at all. I don't think anyone is truly intentionally saying that to harm other people or to stress anyone out or to trigger and activate them. But I do think that that is an issue. And it's like, where does that issue stem from? And a lot of that stems from our beauty standards. And a lot of it stems from the culture that we have, where this type of language is so common. And even around friends, I've always been in situations where I was in friend groups where people were talking about, oh, I have a date in a couple of days. I'm just not going to eat until then. Or I've heard like other people talking to each other and they're like, oh, well, I didn't eat this much today. And another person's like, yeah, I didn't eat this much for the past 2 days. And another person, it's just, it's very competitive. And I'm not saying that when it comes to eating disorders or disordered eating, that the only struggles are people who are not eating, because a lot of times it can be anything from overeating and purging to like orthorexia and other disorders, or it's like that hyperfixation on health foods. So it's not just relegated to not eating and restrictive eating. But I think that type of language is what we hear a lot. Or even when it comes to that hyperfixation on health foods and exercise, there are people who will be like, I only eat health foods. I can't have ice cream. And that is something that we shouldn't like applaud necessarily if we're hearing that. I think we applaud that if we see someone as having like a healthy lifestyle, because that actually might not be healthy for them. Everyone's version of healthy looks really different. That's where physicians should come into play, and nutritionists and professionals who can really help us. But I don't think just because we see on someone's social media that they're eating healthy, that is necessarily a good thing.
And then also going off on that topic as well with working out and eating good, some people don't eat good and work out just to be thin. I think that's a really big misconception with dieting or with just eating healthy. If somebody's eating healthy, it doesn't necessarily mean they want to be thin. You can eat healthy and be healthy without being fit. And that's a really big message that I would want to convey, because it's super important. Because there can be plus size people that they eat healthy,
Yes.
but they aren't necessarily thin, but yet they're still getting bullied saying, oh, you keep on eating that burger or whatever. Like, okay, they can eat a burger if they want, but you don't know if they're not eating unhealthily. They're literally, I heard a lot of stories of people that are really thin, but they don't eat healthy. Like they eat junk food every single day. They just put stuff in their bodies that are not good. And it could be explained through their fast metabolism. Some people don't have fast metabolism. So I hate the myth that if you're fat, then that means that you don't work out or you don't eat healthy. That's not true. People cannot be thin and they can be eating healthy and work out more than you do.
Absolutely. Yeah, I think that comes down to the question of like, what even is a healthy body? Because the way society views a healthy body is not necessarily a healthy body at all. You can truly achieve health in many different sizes. And even in cultural context, there are people who are praised for being smaller. And then in other cultures, they're praised for being what's considered larger. It can be so subjective with what we view as healthy. Just because we have this very Eurocentric view of beauty doesn't mean that that's everyone. And we should not be restricted to that, and we shouldn't be closed-minded. And we also have to really rethink, what is health? What is beauty? What can I do about this? And who in the professional world can I reach out to? Because when I look to get help, it should not be from an influencer with a T. It shouldn't be necessarily even asking my friends who may not know. Maybe if your friend's a doctor, like different story. But you know what I'm saying? Like, we need to be reaching out to professionals. And that's what I feel like I really want to emphasize as well, is there are people who have been trained to help us in these ways. And why would we not tap into those resources? And even like at the heart of what we're sharing and what we're talking about today, we want ultimately for people to be going and seeking help from professionals at the end of the day, because that's really where a lot of growth can happen. And because you want to be getting accurate information, you don't want to be opening up TikTok to see what is new in the health world, which could be so harmful.
Yeah, it's tough. It's tough
Totally.
living in this type of society, in this world. Um, it's just, there's so many things to say about the expectations that are placed on us. And like you said, disordered eating, eating disorders, a lot of people confuse the two with each other. Um,
Mm-hmm.
Disordered eating is more of before you get an eating disorder, it's more of the symptoms that you display that are displaying stuff like anorexia or bulimia. And I know that when I was in middle school, I displayed symptoms of disordered eating where I would be bulimia nervosa, basically. I would eat, but then I would throw up. Um, and it's rough because especially in middle school, that's like the critical years where
Yeah.
you need the most support, and that's where you feel the most criticism hitting you. Um, and I'm not saying all social media is bad, but a lot of it is a lot of it is negative for sure. But that's the reason why body acceptance needs to be achieved. For me, with body acceptance, it depends on each person, of course. You can do whatever you want to help yourself. But we've touched base on language, and I feel that language is the main important aspect for body acceptance.
Yeah.
And I think with language, you really need to stop being so negative because you always hear people saying stuff about themselves like, oh, I'm not good enough. I'm I feel fat in this dress. I don't feel pretty. But I think for me, the way that I started gaining confidence is looking at myself in the mirror and saying, dang, you're looking good today. You look good in those shorts. You look good in that dress. And another way for me to gain it confidence is that instead of having my social media filled with models that are super thin and toned, I follow plus size models because they're beautiful. I think they're beautiful. They're amazing. Like the dresses that they wear are amazing. And I feel that a lot of plus size models on their social media platforms, they don't just post pictures and videos of them walking down the runway or them wearing dresses and stuff, but they also post messages of body positivity on their pages. Every time I open up my Instagram, for example, I see all of these stories from these models that I follow, and they just every single day there would at least be one post about body positivity. And I feel that's a good step to that direction.
Totally. Totally. I agree. Words are so powerful. They have the power to destroy or to really give life to people. And that includes to ourselves. What we tell ourselves really matters. And I think without getting into that realm of toxic positivity, we should definitely validate the struggles. Just like you're saying, we should validate the struggles that we're walking through. We should validate when we hear ourselves having that negative self talk. We're like, wow, I noticed that I am feeling this way, but also trying to be like, wow, now that I'm aware of that, where can I go from here? Should I be reaching out to people? Should I be maybe unfollowing some people? I'm sorry, but unfollowing some people who don't help me, or looking at websites that will help empower me and embolden me instead of making me feel like I'm not enough. So I think it is so important that we validate what we're walking through, and but also really trying to be so aware and trying to tap into those resources because there are so many and we just really have to look. But the thing is, we're not handed those resources. We're not handed resources to be acceptance, acceptance, body acceptance, accept. I literally can't speak. I can't speak. So basically what I'm trying to say, we are not handed the resources to just feel accepted. We're not. And we have to seek what is countercultural. We have to seek those resources. And I hate that the burden has to be on us to do that. But now that we know that the burden is here, even though we don't love that, we can also really tap into those resources. And I think even with disordered eating and eating disorders, yes, they are two different things for sure. And I'm happy that we're like touching on that. I think it is so important that we remember with those to not self diagnose. And that is something that we talked about even when we were thinking of what should we talk about for this video. And for this Wellness Wednesday, we were like, what are some main points we want to talk about? And one of them was not self diagnosing and really tapping into those mental health professionals. We have at the University Counseling Center, which we'll talk about in a little bit, we have mental health professionals. You are able to get free access to these professionals and really ask them and like, hey, can I get some support? And you will be able to get that support. You absolutely will be able to, because they are here to hear you out. They want to know the depth of your heart and your struggles. Just as we care, they care as well. And they're in a professional context, which is even cooler. So that's something that's really important to think about. And yeah, language truly is powerful. Obviously, there's so many factors that go into eating disorders not otherwise specified, or like diagnosable eating disorders, and we don't negate that. But it seems like language is a very common thread that we can see as we are walking through this conversation, but also when we're just talking about anything related to body image. And another thing that comes to mind is, for me, I've always been around people who will say really harmful things about body image, or say things that very much romanticize or promote eating disorders. And I think something that is so important for us to even think about is, how am I talking to my friends, and how are my friends? And when I say friends, I'm not just trying to solely focus on them. You have your friends, you have your family, but I'm mainly just trying to bring attention to your social network and the people who you have access to, you have proximity to, who you can actually speak truth into their lives. When we're talking about words that can help, what better way if I hear a roommate or a friend on campus and they're saying something like that is potentially really harmful, what better way and what better like platform would I have when I have that proximity into their life to be like, hey, can we talk about this? Actually, this is why this may be a problematic phrase, and what did you mean by that? Where can we go from here? Do you see you know what I'm saying? I think those conversations are so important as well. And the National Association of Anorexia Nervosa and Associated Disorders says that 10,200 deaths in the United States each year are the direct result of an eating disorder, which is one death every 52 minutes. And eating disorders have the highest mortality rate of any mental health condition. I think that goes so commonly overlooked. And that's another thing we talked about that we care about so deeply. This is a serious topic, and we care about others getting support and help, but also how are we contributing into this culture of body shaming that could potentially really hurt individuals in their journey to figuring out body acceptance.
Yeah. And then also another thing that I wanted to talk about when it comes to body acceptance, I know we've been talking about language a lot because language is a huge aspect, but I also want to remind people that beauty is subjective and objective. And then I also want to say that because it's so subjective and objective, it's constantly changing depending on the environment that you're in. So it's hard to say. It's easier said than done, but that's why you work on it. That's why you reflect and you grow as a person. But you shouldn't care about what people say, because those people that are saying negative things, they don't know you. And the support that you need, the people that uplift you, are the people that you should care about. The people that say that you're beautiful the way that you are, the people that value who you are as a person more than just looks.
Yeah.
Because
Yeah.
being a person is more than being looks, but it's also about who you are, what your personality is, and just what you stand for in the world. And then as Christians, we are taught that we are made in the image of God. So because all of us are made in the image of God, we should be proud of how we look. We should be proud of how God made us, because God intended it to be that way. God finds us beautiful.
Yeah, totally. I'm so happy that you shared that. Beauty in our culture is very subjective. It's subjective because we're seeing body parts go in and out all the time. I'm surprised every month to hear, oh, this body part's suddenly in and this body part's
Mhm.
suddenly out, as if we could change those parts of ourselves that are natural, as if we have to. It's awful. And at the same time, among different people, among different groups, different values and standards of beauty are seen as admirable and desirable. And that's so subjective. But what's so countercultural, if you identify with the Christian faith and just coming at it from a Christian ideological standpoint, which is what we both are coming at it from, and we're not trying to assume where you stand on that faith wise, but we're positing the idea that all individuals have innate value and are inherently beautiful, not because they're perfect and not because they're good or not because they're just amazing and flawless, even though I think that like we're really powerful, but don't get me wrong, but it's because it comes as a result of being creations that derive from the creator of all, like stepped down and said like that we are valuable and that we like he gave us life. That is a humongous concept that I can't wrap around, but also it really, for me, identifying with that ideology just puts a lot into perspective. And I think it gives me a security that culture and society cannot. Because when I hear just the vacillating standpoints of society telling me, you're not enough, but you are enough, and you're perfect, but then you're not, and then this body part is not right, and then this is the body standard and body type that's in right now. That is constantly changing and evolving. I'm like, I cannot keep up, but what I can keep up with something is sturdy and reliable and steadfast, and that is how the Lord views me and you and all of us, and how the Lord has just shaped us and created us in his image. That is a huge deal, if you ask me. That is a huge deal.
Yeah. It is huge. And I'm not a strong believer in God, but I do feel a lot more positive knowing that. And I hope other people feel that way too.
Totally.
Mhm.
Totally. And I love that you share that as well. We're all on very different journeys. And there's no reason to assume that we're all, because especially at a Christian school, right? We're at APU. Their theme is God first. So like it's a pretty big deal in this within the school, but also we acknowledge there are many people who identify with different faiths, who I don't identify with a faith, who identify with Christianity, but I can talk to someone who identifies with the same faith I do, and we could have totally different views of certain topics.
Mhm.
And that is so beautiful in itself. But what is so unifying in just the faith as a whole is that idea like we are really beautiful, not because we're just because we're fitting with all the beauty standards of the world, but because we don't have to fit in with the beauty standards of the world to be beautiful. And I think that's just so cool. And just as we close out, this is so cool just getting to talk with you and have this conversation. I think we learned a lot about each other, and it's so powerful. Just in the same way that you and I are talking right now, I hope that we're able to encourage others to have these kinds of conversations with those they love, with people you trust, because not only is it so cathartic and it gives that like release of emotion, but it's so healthy. That is what human connection is for, or healthy human connection, if you're talking to people who you really trust.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So before we end this discussion, to anybody that's watching, we would like to remind you that this is a heavy topic to talk about since it is body image. So if you ever feel that you need to talk to anybody, the University Counseling Center is open. The phone number is 626-815-2109.
Totally. Yeah, I love that you mentioned that. And then we're also doing something right now, which is the letters of encouragement. And that is a campaign in order to just engender unity and togetherness on campus. And you can look more into that if you'd like on our link tree. It's linked with our Instagram. So a lot of this information, just make sure you're keeping up to date with the Instagram, follow and check in for like kind of those updates to see what's going on and to really get involved, because we want everyone to just have their voice be heard. That's what's so important for this year. And we also, again, wanted to mention, because we're not professionals whatsoever, we do want you to be going to people who are professionals, who can give you that insight. And one example of that is NEDA, which is the National Eating Disorders hotline, and they also have a website. And if you look up NEDA, that's their acronym for everything, they have a hotline that you're able to see once you go on Google and check that all out. And they also have a website which gives a lot of psychoeducational resources that are just so important if you want to learn more about disordered eating, eating disorders, its implications, statistics. It's all there. So definitely check that out. It's like nationaleatingdisorders.org. And then the hotline is 1-800-931-2237. And you can look at the hours online on the website as well.
And then just one more reminder, we do have Cougars Care coming up. As Adia mentioned, it is a good idea to follow our Instagram page, because we will be posting updates about when the first Cougars Care will be. But if you do want a heads up on when the dates are, if you look at our webpage on the APU website, you will find a link for Cougars Care there, and then it'll show the outline for the rest of the year.
Totally. Yeah, we would love to see you there and maybe even like continue these conversations. But yeah, thanks for listening in, and thanks, Rae, for being so cool and having this conversation with me.
Yeah, thank you for having this conversation with me too. I enjoyed getting to know you better, and I enjoyed this topic too.
Aw, bye.
Bye.